She was barefoot on red Kenyan soil when she first kissed the lips that would lead her into the lion's den. Ndoni didn't expect love that day. She was just walking along the Gang Hills, looking for herbs for her grandmother's healing oils. The sky above was orange, the wind cool. She bent to pick a wild aloe when a soft accent asked behind her, "Are those for medicine?" She turned and there he was. William Spencer. White skin, sandy blonde hair, and tired blue eyes. He wore linen pants and a beaded Maasai bracelet. He said he was visiting Kenya for something called ritual restructuring, spiritual healing through African energy, a new wellness trend for white elites. She giggled at how serious he looked trying to understand African herbs. One conversation became a walk. The next day a coffee. Within 2 weeks he was calling her queen, buying her roses, and promising her the world. When he proposed at Lake Naivasha under a full moon, she said yes. It felt like magic. A Kikuyu girl from a humble home marrying a rich European man? It sounded like a fairy tale. But no one warned her that fairy tales have wolves. Ndoni followed him back to Austria's steppes, a cold land of castles and white fences where everyone stared like they'd never seen a black woman before. William had a family mansion, old, giant, quiet. "Our family has money," he'd say with pride. At first, she tried to be the perfect wife. She cooked, cleaned, and even sang him lullabies when he couldn't sleep. But something didn't sit right. William didn't work. Not even a little. He slept till noon, drank fine wine, and spent evenings watching old European war documentaries. Ndoni once asked about his career. "What for?" "My family handles everything." Her heart sank. She had always believed in working hard, just like her mother and grandmother. So while William slept, Ndoni worked. She began mixing African herbs in the kitchen. She made soap, oils, scrubs. She sold them online under his name for convenience. The business grew fast. Austrian elites loved the wild African touch, not knowing it came from a girl who used to pound herbs in a wooden bowl in Nairobi. William posed for interviews and took all the credit, calling it our vision. Still, she didn't complain. She believed in building the home in silence. Then the visitors started coming. Lady Astrid, William's mother, always wore pearls and a tight smile. Greta, his younger sister, was worse, always rolling her eyes, always judging. They would whisper when Ndoni walked past, "She's just here for the money. They marry for papers, don't they? Better get a prenup before she takes the castle." One night at dinner, Greta said with a smirk, "Do you even understand what these business contracts mean, Ndoni? I mean, English isn't your first language, right?" Ndoni smiled politely, but her fingers were trembling under the table. The next week, William's lawyer came. "For protection," he said. "Prenup." Ndoni blinked. Her soul cracked. She realized what this was. They didn't see her as a wife, just a woman they feared would steal their wealth. The same wealth she built. That night, she sat on the mansion balcony alone, watching snowflakes melt on her palm. Inside, William laughed with Greta like nothing happened. Ndoni pulled out her notebook and wrote something simple. "Never let anyone claim what you built with bloody hands." She reached out to Zaria, her old law school friend in Nairobi, now a lawyer in Europe. Quietly, Ndoni started moving her shares from the business into her name. Zaria helped draft documents that gave Ndoni 80% control of the empire she built. William didn't notice. He never asked about anything real. He just smiled, drank, and called her my exotic queen. But something else was growing inside her. One morning, Ndoni stood in the bathroom, staring at 2 red lines on a pregnancy stick. She was pregnant. She didn't tell anyone. Not yet. She had 2 things to protect now, her child and her crown. But just as she started planning her quiet glow-up, she walked into her bathroom and found it. A message, written in lipstick on the mirror. "Get out, Jungle Queen." Her blood turned to ice. This was not a fairy tale. It was a war. And she had just started sharpening her claws. She had hands full of soap and herbs, while he had champagne stains on his shirt. Ndoni worked with purpose. She rose early while William snored under velvet blankets. Her hands blended shea butter and baobab oil. Her fingers chopped roots. Her mind turned pain into profit. Her brand Ashglow became a storm in Europe. Natural, earthy, African luxury, the packaging said. But the real power came from Ndoni's sweat and soul. William smiled for photos, but Ndoni was the one kneading leaves with her bare hands. They did business interviews together. What inspired this brand, William? I visited Africa. I met someone powerful, he'd say, throwing her a charming glance. The world clapped. His family winced. Lady Astrid hated seeing her black daughter-in-law on TV. Why does she always wear those African prints? This is Europe. Greta rolled her eyes. And why is she on the cover? Isn't it your brand, Will? They came to the mansion often now. Uninvited. They walked in like they owned it. Whispering, rearranging things, watching her. One day, Ndoni found Astrid standing inside her personal herb room. This smell gives me a headache, she said. That's the smell of profit, Ndoni replied softly. Astrid flinched. That night, they sent another lawyer. Another version of the prenup. We want to secure family assets, he said. Ndoni nodded, smiling sweetly. She signed nothing. Instead, she continued working with Zarya, slowly moving every secret asset, every bank account, every stock under her name. Quiet. Legal. Powerful. One Friday night, she overheard something chilling. William on speakerphone with Greta. I'm starting to feel like she's smarter than she lets on. She's African, Will. They know survival, not strategy. Keep her sweet. Ndoni stood outside the door, her hands shaking. She bit her lip until it bled. That was the night she stopped hoping he would protect her. She started preparing to protect herself. She hired a small group of black women from South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Haiti, herbalists, marketers, photographers, and one therapist. Ashglow will be black-owned fully, she said. She built a secret team behind William's back. She called it the Queen's Room. They met in quiet cafes and hotel lobbies. They planned a full rebrand, one that would push William out completely. But while she built, the hate got uglier. She woke one morning to find the tires of her car slashed. A dead bird was left at her doorstep. Her DMs were flooded with racist slurs. You dirty monkey. Go back to your hut. William deserves better. William said nothing. He shrugged. Don't let the trolls get to you. She stared at him, suddenly realizing. He never really protected her. He just enjoyed owning her. Then came the launch party. Ashglow was unveiling its new line, African Moon Elixirs. Guests, lights, cameras, the world was watching. Lady Astrid showed up in full white lace, dragging Greta behind. Ndoni tried to stay calm, until she stepped away for a moment and returned to find a printed photo placed on her seat. An edited picture of her with a monkey's face. Greta and two cousins were laughing in the corner. Ndoni didn't cry. She smiled, took the photo, folded it, and walked up to the stage like a goddess. Tonight, she said, we celebrate African beauty, resilience, and women who build empires with ashy hands. They call us gold diggers, but forget, we are the gold. The room exploded with applause. Greta's face? Priceless. Back home, William didn't even ask how the party went. He was drunk, watching boxing, legs on the table. Ndoni stood behind him, staring. She had one thought. You were the gate I walked through, not the kingdom I built. That night, she packed one secret bag. She took her baby bump photo for memory. And she kissed the crown molding goodbye. The next chapter of her life was calling. And it wasn't asking permission. She found a note on her pillow. Stay in your place. She smiled because soon that place would be a throne. Ndoni didn't scream when she left. No drama. No shouting. She simply walked away, with her belly warm, her business secured, and her silence more dangerous than any gun. She moved to Paris, rented a cozy townhouse in Le Marais, and changed her name on social media to Ndoni Ash. The world started whispering. Where's William's wife? Why is she rebranding alone? Why is she the one in Forbes? Because finally, Ndoni was stepping into her light. The new Ashglow brand exploded. No more hiding behind William's name. Now it was proudly Black-owned. Female LED. Africa-made. The packaging had African symbols. Her baby bump appeared in a campaign with the caption, From the Motherland. For all mothers. Instagram fell in love. TikTok called her the Queen of Healing. Black women all over Europe began posting her products with hashtags like #NdoniGlow, #AshyNoMore, #SheBuiltIt. But not everyone was celebrating. Back in Austria, chaos erupted. William was drowning in embarrassment. The media kept asking, where's your wife? Why is she the one getting all the credit? Greta and Lady Astrid were furious. She's using your name. She's taking everything. She tricked you. But William didn't even understand how deep he'd been outplayed. One rainy afternoon, he called Ndoni. Let's talk. Please. We were good once. Ndoni answered calmly. We were never partners. You were my shadow. Click. Days later, she received a lawsuit letter. William and his family were suing her for using company resources and family identity without permission. She didn't flinch. Instead, she instructed her lawyer Zaria to respond with evidence. A file of documents showing white heavy check mark she was the sole creator of the product formulas. White heavy check mark all marketing strategies were under her name. White heavy check mark her own money funded the first batches. White heavy check mark William never paid a single coin. And then the final weapon. The secret company restructure papers. Ndoni equals 80% owner. William equals 20% silent partner. The court laughed them out. But the family's shame was just beginning. A viral video broke the internet. Greta was secretly recorded mocking black women at a charity event. Ash glow is for poor, ashy girls pretending to be pretty. The backlash was instant. The brand she worked with dropped her. She tried to cry on Instagram Live. Nobody cared. Ndoni? She posted a calm reel. A bowl of shea butter. Her hand mixing it. Soft music. Caption. For all the women they said were too much. Too loud. Too dark. Too strong. This is for you. 1 million likes. 2 million shares. Greta? Blocked. Meanwhile, Ndoni's baby bump was growing. She hired a doula from Ghana. Had a warm team of African sisters in Paris who cooked jollof and sang Swahili lullabies. She lived softly. She worked calmly. And for once she was not fighting, she was rising. One afternoon she got a letter. William's family was bankrupt. Bad investments. Pride. Lawsuits. The mansion was being auctioned. And guess who called begging? Lady Astrid. Ndoni, I know we had tension. But you're a mother now. Can't we talk? Ndoni stared at the message, then replied with just one line. I was always more than your son's wife. I was the empire. They thought she left quietly, until she returned holding the deed to their last piece of dignity. The night Ndoni's water broke, it wasn't panic, it was peace. She was in her Paris apartment, surrounded by warm voices and African music. Her doula, Mama Jalea, braided her hair gently while whispering, You carry a king inside you. But you are the crown. At 3:17 a.m., after gentle pushes and silent strength, Ndoni gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Sifa Amani Spencer. Praise and peace. His skin was caramel brown with soft curly hair and big wondering eyes. Ndoni held him close and whispered, You will never beg to be respected. You were born royal. 2 weeks later, while the world slept, Ndoni dropped her biggest move yet. She had quietly bought the family mansion in Austria, the same one where Lady Astrid mocked her, where Greta spat racist jokes, where William never stood up for her. It was in foreclosure. Cheap. Ndoni? She paid in full. No loan. No press. Just power and silence. The butler who once refused to call her ma'am now bowed deeply at her return. When she walked through the front door with baby Sifa in her arms, her heels echoed like thunder. The chandelier still shone above her, but this time it felt like it belonged to her. She walked into the living room, same red velvet sofa, same fireplace where Astrid once said, You don't belong here. Now above that fireplace she placed a golden frame. Frame picture a photo of Ndoni holding Sifa, both dressed in gold and kitenge. She hosted a press conference a week later. Journalists flew in. Bloggers screamed her name. Cameras flashed. Everyone expected scandal, but what they got was a masterclass in grace and dominance. Ndoni sat on stage in a white suit, baby Sifa in her lap, and said, Ash glow is not just skincare. It is soil, sweat, and soul. They tried to bury me, but I was the seed. Mic drop. That same week, a job application came in. From Greta. Yes, Greta. She had been blacklisted from events, lost her brand deals, and now she needed work. Her email said, Looking to grow within your thriving brand. Willing to start small. Ndoni didn't delete the email. She printed it, framed it, and hung it on the Ash Glow office wall under the sign. Be careful how you treat people, they might become your boss. Meanwhile, William disappeared. Ashamed. Alone. Rumors said he had been spotted in Prague, working at a spa and trying to pitch healing retreats. Nobody listened. Without Ndoni, he had no story. Without her, he was just a man in linen pants with no plan. One night he called. Again. Ndoni answered. Calm, soft voice. I saw our son on Instagram, he whispered. He looks strong. She smiled. He is. Because he was carried by a woman who refused to be broken. Click. Back in Paris, Ashglow had become a billion-dollar brand. She opened a beauty academy for African girls in Europe. Taught them business. Taught them softness. Her motto? We don't fight for seats at their table. We build our own. She raised Sifa with joy. No bitterness. No rush. Just warm sun, black love, and generational healing. One final twist. Lady Astrid, once proud and vicious, now old and forgotten, wrote a handwritten letter. You won. We see that now. And I regret not seeing your worth. Ndoni replied with one sentence. I never needed your approval. I only needed to remember mine. Mama, if Daddy didn't protect you, why did you protect me? 7 years later, the world now knew her name. Ndoni Ash, global mogul, speaker, healer, mother. She had been featured on Forbes, Vogue, and BBC Africa. She owned skincare factories in Ghana, training centers in Morocco, and wellness retreats in South Africa. But her greatest title was still Mama. Her son Sifa was now a curious, smart, and warm-hearted little boy. He loved mangoes, bedtime stories, and asking big questions. One evening, while they painted under a tree in their Paris garden, he turned to her and asked, Mama, who is my dad? Why isn't he here in my pictures? Ndoni paused. The air was still. She looked at her son, same curious eyes but so much stronger. Your father gave me a gift I didn't expect, she said gently. You. And sometimes, gifts come from storms. Sifa tilted his head. Did he love you? She smiled faintly. Not the way you should love someone, but I learned to love myself louder. He nodded slowly, then picked up his brush and dipped it in gold paint. Mama, you're like fire in the snow. Her heart swelled. 2 months later, Ndoni hosted her first ever legacy gala. It was held in Nairobi, on the red soil where her story began. A gold carpet, a glass stage, drums from Congo, lanterns from Tanzania, and a massive golden tree in the middle symbolizing deep roots. Loud crowns. Leaders, stars, CEOs, and young black girls from 30 countries attended. Ndoni walked in dressed in royal white ankara, a golden crown braided into her hair, holding Sifa's hand. The entire crowd rose. Standing ovation. Applause like thunder. That night, she gave the speech of her life. They tried to write me off as a maid in their mansion. They called me jungle queen, gold digger, liar. But I became the landlord of that mansion. I didn't fight back with fire. I planted a tree and built shade. The crowd wept. Sifa smiled. Africa roared. Then came the final twist. After the gala, she sat for her first ever televised truth interview. A global show. Millions tuned in. The interviewer leaned in. If you saw William today, what would you say? Ndoni looked straight at the camera. Thank you. He showed me what happens when you let someone else carry your crown. I'll never do that again. Pause. And if you're watching, your son is loved, safe, and glowing. He doesn't need your money. He has my legacy. Mic drop. That night, William watched from a small apartment in Prague. He was pale, broke, and forgotten. But as he saw Ndoni and Sifa on screen, he began to cry. Not because he missed them, but because he finally understood. He lost a queen. And queens don't come back. The story ends with Ndoni and Sifa walking barefoot on the same red soil she once kissed William on. But now she's the one holding a gold staff. Behind her are schools, factories, smiling girls, her empire. The camera pans to her son asking, Mama, what does your name mean again? She kneels beside him and whispers. Ndoni means the one who came to conquer silently. He looks up. Then you lived your name. This story is for every woman who was underestimated, mocked, betrayed, or erased. Build your name in silence. Let them hear your roar through your success.